if you have control of the game and you have a play that you got stashed, maybe you hold that back. But I do think it's a conversation of, like, where are we in the game?
And by showing something, by not holding back and showing it, you now have to prepare for that, right. And I can do wrinkles off of it.
Now, that's something you might do, which is put something in that you're not serious about running.
Yeah.
Like I always say, if I was a coach,
they never
I'd run
make a deal with
Wildcat
the
once
Sicilian.
a week. I'd run. He'd make a deal with what?
Do you remember Princess Bride? He's like, never make a deal with a Sicilian.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, which wine has the poison in it? Yours or mine?
Yeah. That's got to be Nick Sirianni this week.
Yeah.
You never make a deal
with
a
Sicilian. He would be that fuck.
I don't think he's Sicilian, though.
He's Italian.
Yeah. Okay.
Ask his hat.
All right, so we got our previews today. We got 3 categories: top tier, mid tier, low tier. We were going to go with best injured athlete performance. Any ideas for top tier?
Kyle.
This is my...
Mine's Kirk Gibson.
Oh,
right?
Kirk. Oh, yeah.
I mean, who could forget Kirk Gibson?
I couldn't even believe what you saw.
I don't even know what I saw.
Yeah.
I don't know.
2 bum knees, World Series off Eckersley, full count.
It was crazy.
Prime white guy
baseball from the 70s. Prime mustache white guy.
Everybody
that can't
looked like
run.
a porn star.
Okay, so I got Kirk Gibson number 1.
Okay, so do I get to do a top tier now as well?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, this has got to be Madden's Greg Jennings playing on a broken leg.
Yeah.
He put the fucking team on his back.
No.
It's got to be the best injury performance
Let's
ever.
step inside the mind of a Greg Jennings.
I still do that.
Oh, yeah. Just like in random situations?
Yes.
You had to be there,
That's
Kyle. Some of these young kids, they don't know what that was about.
They're on roadblocks.
Before Waffle Fries guy, before Vine, you had Greg Jennings on Madden.
How about a mid-tier?
Mid-tier's Willis Reed. Okay, I'm a Knicks fan. Love the Willis Reed thing. But what they don't tell you about Willis Reed is he scored 4 points in that game. Yeah, in my mind's eye, as a kid growing up and seeing that footage, I thought Willis Reed dropped 40 on those guys.
The story is that he inspired them to greatness, but really Earl Monroe had a great game.
My mid-tier is going to be Tiger Woods winning the U.S. Open with a broken leg.
2008?
Yeah, that's pretty good, Kyle. Because at the end of the day, it is golf. Okay, and my bottom tier is Chris Long playing on a fucking surgically repaired ankle in 2014, just ruining my reputation.
This is the worst injury.
This is the worst injury performance. Hey, yeah, they're really gonna respect me if I do this. Mm-hmm. Everybody's calling me a coward in the building. Can't even run. They got me out there. I remember I saw Earl Thomas at a party or something, and this was a couple years later. He was like, "C Long, man, you were a dog." I'm still playing at this point. He's like, "You were a dog, bro, when you were healthy." And I was like, Jesus, you remember 2014? I didn't think anybody saw that. Yeah. I'm just dragging that cinder block around.
God, I just like looked inward for a second after you said that about all the times
you played
like
hurt.
Shit, hurt.
I mean, this was bad.
If they don't remember that,
if I ever show you this tape, it's bad, Kyle.
I've got some of that.
It's really bad.
I hope we never.
Now, I would put Chris Long on a high ankle in contract year, getting 13 buckets in the top tier with Kirk Gibson to make it fair. But 2014 was a bad year for your boy. Let's start with the Kirk Gibson games.
Kirk Gibson / Greg Jennings game.
There's only exactly. There's only one game that you can start this conversation with, and that is Niners-Eagles. In this game, Kyle, it's spicy. Like last year, I think the Niners felt like they should have won that game because Brock got hurt and the whole thing. And my argument was always, you can't really say you should have won the game. It's not like Brock stubbed his toe walking in the stadium. He got fucking killed by the D-line because you couldn't protect him.
Yeah.
Hassan Reddick ended his day. Okay, it's not like you go out there to hurt people, but once you take a quarterback out of the game, to the victor goes the spoils, and they just pounded the ball on these guys. And I think one of the biggest things for the Niners coming out of that game was, they got picked on inside. Kinlaw got picked on. He was riding public transportation the whole day. He was on SEPTA the whole day.
SEPTA
is the public transportation up that Connor Barwin used to ride.
Okay.
Kinlaw was riding public transportation, and I knew coming out of that game, the first thing they were going to do was rectify that situation. You hear about people making moves in division all the time to counter a player in division.
We're built for them.
This is what they had to do. We're going to see the Eagles again. This is going to be a couple-year thing. Let's go get Javon Hargrave, who is a subtraction with the Eagles. Now, of course, they replaced him with studs inside, and Jalen Carter, who should make me whole on that defensive rookie of the year bet. But the bottom line is, whether it's Debo talking about Bradbury or just the general sense of, hey, we should have won this game last year, this is going to be spicy. It's going to be chippy. I cannot wait to see this game. Kyle, I think the biggest factor in this game is the Eagles' fatigue.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying they're going to lose the game. I'm not ready to pick this game.
But if you don't think that's a factor,
but it's a factor.
You're wrong.
Okay, so the Eagles kind of getting fucked by the schedule makers, playing two teams that consecutively have 10 days rest in a row. Okay, so you're looking at San Francisco. They haven't played since Thanksgiving. Eagles went out there and played 90-plus plays on defense Sunday. And then next week, they get the Cowboys off of playing Seattle, who's not a really physical team. You got 10 days off of that. And then I just found out the Eagles got flexed to Monday night the following week against the Seahawks. And you could look at that as a positive because you get a little more rest off this gauntlet. But again, we were talking about the magnitude of that game and that kick. Think about losing that game and then having to go into this gauntlet with San Francisco breathing down your neck.
Ugh.
You're trying to win home field advantage. So I went back and looked. Coming off of overtime, there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, including the Eagles last week game, overtimes this year. Okay, week 1, Buffalo and the Jets. The very next week, the Jets, who won that game, got jumped by the Cowboys. Early, they were out of it, the whole thing. They started slow. Buffalo found themselves down 7-0 at home against the Raiders. Now, they blew them out, but it was a bit of a sluggish start. Week 4, Washington and Philadelphia go toe-to-toe. They go to overtime. Philly starting slow against the Rams the very next week. Now, they stuck the landing in the second half and pulled away. Washington, you'll remember this, Kyle, that week, down 27-3 to Chicago, okay, in a primetime game. Okay,
that was a fun night. That was the DJ Moore night.
Fun for you, not fun for an under-better in primetime, but you can't win them all. Week 8, the Giants and the Jets. The Giants found themselves down 24-0 next week to the Raiders, and the Jets were down 14-0 in the first quarter to the Chargers, and then lost 27-6. So the point is, I'm not saying this is a huge subset to pull from, but all of these teams had first quarter deficits. Everybody that's played in overtime this year has come out sluggish the next week early in a ball game. And this is not a team you can do that against.
And that's like it's a double sword effect because of who you played, how you played, the conditions you played.
90 plus plays on defense, Kyle. I went up and looked, okay? And by the way, they played.
It's not just the plays, it's the types of plays and who you're playing against and who you're tackling.
It's tackling
and
Josh
who you're
Allen.
Chasing.
It's chasing Patrick Mahomes. It's tackling Isaiah Pacheco. They played 74 plays of defense against the Chiefs, turn around and play 92 against the Bills, okay? So this is the big key for the Eagles. Fletcher Cox, is he down? I don't know, okay? Jalen, he played 76 snaps last week. I'm talking about Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis.
He's such a problem.
Played 62 plays last week. So that's a lot for these big guys. And a guy like Milton Williams, who's probably back from a concussion, right? Who I really like.
And this is rookie wall territory.
He's got to step up, right? So you can't be putting 76 plays on Jalen Carter this week. You can't have Jordan Davis over 60. I like the burn the ships thing, but when you got a guy like Milton Williams, who I think is a very good player, he's got to step up this week. And the challenge is, and Miami couldn't do this to these guys. You remember when they got on the edge, they knocked him down for a bunch of negatives, Hassan, Josh Sweat. This is a different animal in San Francisco in that these tackles have to be really good front side, you know, in a 3 technique, keeping color in that gap. Because what they'll do is they'll one cut, stick your foot in the ground, and hit that void. Because when you get on different levels defensively, you know, if you're going to penetrate, make the play in the backfield. But if you've got a flat 3 technique playing at the line and you've got really penetrating ends, you know where that void is, Kyle. It's going to be in that C gap. You're going to stretch the defense, and then you're going to cut it up the field, and you're going to hit that C or that B gap, and they're really good at that. So I worry about the perimeter plays hitting inside or backside, and I worry about the attrition inside for these guys. So, you know, I think the biggest matchup advantage you have is McKivitz. You have to win that matchup because the thing I'm worried about in the passing game is the middle of the field. And the only way you slow these guys down in the middle of the field with George Kittle and the matchups that I'm worried about with like Byard and that sort of thing is you have to either chip this guy. In New England, we used to chip good tight ends. Takes you out of your rush. but it slows those guys down. Or you have to keep them in on 7-man protection because you're kicking these guys' asses so bad in passing situations.
There's going to be so much game plan based, keeping them honest on defense and keeping things the way that Kyle wants them to be for San Francisco. And pre-snap, Brock's going to have a play in the hole and a play ready to be called. And I think that with the weapons that they do have on defense, I'm talking San Francisco now, I'm interested to see if they're going to mix it up or they're going to stick to that vanilla stuff, because Steve Wilks, he wanted to get after people early on and manufacture pressure. But, I mean, you and I both know good rushers want to continue to rush. They want to play their gaps. They want to play their assignment because they get into their flow, and that's when the big plays happen. If you've got me breaking up the flow of my rhythm and dropping or stunting, picking somebody else, I can't play confident. And also against Jalen Hurts, how are they going to mix things up? Are they going to – where are guys going to be coming from? Are they going to be coming in his tight line of sight, A-B gap pressures? Are the guards going to have their antenna up for the run-throughs, the cross dogs? Or is it going to be the tackle who's going to have to pre-snap, not only deal with these rushers, but deal with the edge guys coming off? Are we going to have a capped slot? Is the slot going to be capped by a safety? Where are these issues going to be coming from? And for the Eagles, that's going to be the thing. Can we block these guys on base downs with the talent they have? And if we do, can we adjust to the pressure that's surely going to be coming
5-on-4, I like the matchup. If Lane's back, that's the thing we're not certain of. I think Lane, last week, the groin, I've had groin stuff. It's smart to sit down if you're on the edge of popping that thing. So
he was a full participant in practice.
The defense has to tackle, Kyle. This is like, if you think about a group of guys that you have to bring your hard hat, like in the second level against, it's these guys. At every position, they have tackle breakers. Debo is in the top 10, I think, in average yards after contact. No shock. Kittle's third in yards after contact among tight ends who have over 30 receptions. McCaffrey first in yards after contact, period. So, having those guys out there in space, they're going to get these guys looks where there's green grass. You cannot miss tackles. So you got to bring your hard hat. And I also think for the Eagles, in the middle of the defense, you're going to have to survive this thing. But it speaks volumes that they brought in Shaq Leonard, to visit the team, because you're saying, okay, we brought Byard in, mixed results so far, but the last little hole in the dam for us is like, we want to fortify the middle of the field. And, it's a flyer on Darius Leonard a little bit, but they are admitting that that's one area that maybe they'd like to be a little better. Offensively, Kyle, for the Eagles, I think they've got to play keep away. You talk about how good this defense is. You just pointed out a lot of the good stuff about this defense. The front four, is he going to be as blitz heavy as he was before you got Chase Young? I don't think so. I think they feel good about the matchup.
They're going to go play mano-a-mano. We're going to get to see a fucking heavyweight fight.
That's exactly what it is. So the Eagles are going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to stay in third and manageable. Dude. Last year, they pounded the rock. I talked about Kinlaw. And, they played the numbers game in the run game, too. Like, if you look back at that game, there were situations where they bring in a bunch, and, like, San Francisco's backers would plus over to that bunch. They'd shift over, and then they'd take the run to the other side. Mm-hmm. So this game, I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of concepts you pull from last year, and are Steve Wilks and the Niners ready for it. Kyle, this is the big thing that I found when I looked at this. I think this is what the whole game hinges on. Okay, the Eagles the last 3 weeks have been poor in time possession. Both these teams are really good at time possession the whole year. They're top 5. And I think that's because of the Eagles' inability to convert on third down. And it's been a problem over the last 3 weeks of the season.
That's why they have so many fourth down conversions.
They have, exactly, all the tush push and stuff.
The tush push.
But Kyle, they've had 19 passing attempts on third down over the last 3 weeks. They're 8 of 19 in those situations. One was a defensive holding. And I think in general, they only have 3 DPIs or holding penalties that they've drawn on third down all season. You look at the guys outside, how do you not have more? How do you not put people in situations where that ref has to blow the whistle, pull a flag out? You've got A.J. Brown, you have Devontae Smith, and I think part of it could be Dallas Goedert. I can't define exactly how it is that he's affected them on third down, but I do think it helps to have a guy like that. And if you add in the sacks over the last 3 weeks, they're 8 of 22 in those passing situations. So I've taken out the short yardage tush pushes. I've taken out the run game. I've taken out some of the scrambles, which you could say, hey, that's unfair. The scrambles count. But I'm talking about the passing concepts that you roll out for third down against the San Francisco 49ers.
Got to have it third down.
They have to be better. Okay, you got 6 targets on third down over the past 3 weeks to A.J. Brown. Okay, and by the way, that DPI stat I gave you where they've only drawn 3 flags on third down in DPI or holding, Jacksonville, for instance, has 13. On the year. And, it just doesn't make sense to me. If you look at Dallas, they're 7 of 14. 4 of those conversions, runs or tush pushes. Kansas City, 3 of 10, not including the kneel down. The first 5 fucking third downs in that game, they didn't even get the ball off. They were negatives or sacks. They didn't hit a third down, I think, until 7 minutes left in the game. Okay, and if you count 3 of 10, 2 of those were runs and tush pushes. So you see this problem starting to mount a little bit for the Eagles on third down. And in Buffalo, against Buffalo, 4 of 11. And the conversions were like stole in the red zone, a screen, and then the circus play. Okay, that's the first time to me, Kyle, me and Nolan looked at each other and we were like, oh, that looks like last year. These guys just taking chances on third down, taking the top off the defense,
shots.
Take some shots, draw some penalties, see what happens, pick your spots there. But I think for Brian Johnson, without a tight end over the last couple of weeks, where he's been. He was at Florida. He had Kyle Pitts. Is it the Goddard thing, not having that security blanket, not knowing what to do over the last month of the season? And the big question for me is, how can you take advantage of your A.J. Brown matchups? You have a new safety in there. I think there are going to be plays to be had, but you have to be aggressive on third down, and you have to be mindful.
Who's that, Brown in there?
Yeah.
For San Francisco, and I think he's a really good player.
He's been good.
So,
but test him out.
And you'd usually say we need this safety to be on top of his game because we've got corner issues, but Charvarius Ward has been unbelievable over there the last few games. And I think about the times when I saw him in practice in Kansas City and he would be over there guarding Tyreek Hill. And then I watch him against like DK Metcalf and he's facing a bigger target. He just loves these challenges. So and opportunities against AJ, I expect him not to be, undersized in that matchup.
No. It's not like he has some enormous size mismatch, but like AJ is a problem, man. And you got to, on third down, I got to see more balls going to him. And another thing is, when I looked at all their third downs over the past month, Kyle, or the past 3 weeks, I didn't see a lot of balls outside the numbers. I didn't see them, especially vertical plays. It hit a couple outs. They hit an out to AJ. They hit an out in overtime last week. But they until that 3rd and 17, I didn't see a single ball over 10 yards caught on third down outside the numbers. So, I don't know what that is. But I like them when they're a little bit more aggressive. And I also think it's just knowing the difference between a situation where you take a shot on 3rd and 3, or maybe the game script or the situation in the game demands that you run the ball, take the possession, try to get the first down. You get in plus territory, then take your shot on 3rd and 3.
It's interesting that, there's 2 things. I can talk to you about the thought process on that, the 3rd and short and the inability to find receivers. And like you said, the tight end being out's big, but I wonder what their thought process is about the threshold of their tush push and where that line is, because that's a big determining factor in what we're going to do on third down. But I want to talk about the offense for San Francisco. And the success they have is when Brock's comfortable, when he's taking care of the football.
Yeah.
And one thing that these guys do, particularly up the middle, they're great on the edge. And no doubt, we always talk about the edge rushers, but if you get Brock off his spot and he turns that football over, the San Francisco 49ers look like a completely different operation.
He'll take chances because he's an artist. He really is.
The guys who need to step up are George Kittle, he's got to be eye contact. He's got to see the whites of Brock's eyes all night.
Yeah.
Unless he's running that switch route and he's wide open down the sideline, I need him in the front 10
playing
Brock.
that game with each other,
looking like a spy
laying
linebacker.
down.
Because Brock's going to be under duress.
Yep.
I mean, it's not only going to be from getting home on single rushes and guys on the edge getting rushes, but it's going to be coordinated tackle and end picks. The Eagles do it better than anybody. It's Jeremiah Washburn, a guy who's coached the offensive line position for a long time in the league. I played for him, and his dad was a tremendous defensive line coach forever. He understands it. His group is well coached. They get home with coordinated rushes just as often as they get home with wins, right, Chris?
No question. I mean, and he's a great coach.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, big guys is a big matchup for the big guys, but also there's a ton of great skill players on the
like
field.
the big guys.
I wish this was a Super Bowl.
Do you think the coaches
preview.
will hold anything back? Like, this is a possible.
You never hold anything
This
back.
is a game that might have.
You never hold
the
anything
NFC
back.
Championship.
No, I don't think so. I mean, like, maybe you have a concept in your back pocket, but I wouldn't call it holding it back. You're going to use that if you get in a stressful situation in the game. You know, if you have control of the game and you have a play that you got stashed, maybe you hold that back. But I do think it's a conversation of, you know, like, where are we in the game?
And by showing something, by not holding back and showing it, you now have to prepare for that,
Right.
and I can do wrinkles off of it.
Now, that's something you might do, which is put something in that
This
you're not
is like-
serious about running.
Yeah.
Like I always say, if I was a coach,
They never
I'd run
make a deal with
Wildcat
the
once a
Sicilian.
week. I'd run. He'd make a deal with what?
Do you remember Princess Bride? He's like, never make a deal with a Sicilian.
Yeah,
And he's
exactly.
like, which wine has the poison in
Uh-huh,
it?
yeah.
Yours or mine?
Yeah. That's got to be Nick Sirianni this week.
Yeah.
You never make a
He
deal with
would
a
be that
Sicilian.
fuck.
I don't think he's Sicilian, though.
He's Italian.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
ask his hat.
Whatever you're looking forward to this football season, there's one thing that pairs well with every great moment: an ice-cold Miller Lite. Whether you're at the stadium playing fantasy football or watching the game at home or the bar, Miller Lite is here to make your football season taste like Miller time. No matter what team you're rooting for, there's one thing we can all agree on. Football brings us together. A connection like that deserves to be celebrated, and Miller Lite wants you to celebrate with me during the NFL Conference Championships in January. Right now, Miller Lite is giving you the chance to win a trip for two to come hang out in the Green Light Studio. You'll fly out to Charlottesville, Virginia, and tune in to the NFL Conference Championships with me and the Green Light crew. Then you'll sit in on a live Green Light podcast session. Just go to MillerLite.com/GreenLightSweeps to enter. From kickoff till the final whistle, you can't go wrong with the Miller Lite in your hand. Celebrate Miller time with the Green Light podcast. Go to MillerLite.com/GreenLightSweeps to enter for your chance to win. No purchase necessary. Starts 11/6/23 and ends 12/4/23 at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. Must be a legal resident of one of the 50 U.S. states or Washington, D.C., 21 years of age or older, void where prohibited. See official rules at www.millerlite.com/greenlightsweeps for entry, instructions, odds, prizes, and restrictions. Let's go Chiefs-Packers, Kyle, because you've played up here on Sunday. Just to set the stage, because I got a lot to say about this one, but Kyle, what's it like playing up there at Lambeau in a night game?
It's hallowed ground. I mean, divisional, we got to play there a lot in division. So for the Chiefs going there, it's two historic franchises still.
Super Bowl one, bro.
And I mean, every team that's hosting Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs show, it's the greatest show on turf. You know what I'm saying? A couple years running here. And the Packers, they're not used to losing ball games, but they've given their fans reason to believe that this team has a future. And if a team has a future, they have to step up to the plate and swing up at some teams. And the Chiefs coming into town are ripe for getting swung at by the Packers. I'm looking forward to this one. And when you go to play at Lambeau, there's a unique environment there that's unmatched anywhere else. The history, when you walk out on that field, the perfectly manicured field that they obviously take tremendous pride in.
High school
the small
cheerleaders.
the small town that you drive through to get to the stadium. And the stadium is just amongst a neighborhood.
I know.
And
It's like Sim City. You
It's
spend all your coins on
spectacular.
the stadium.
That's a good way to put it.
yeah.
Green Bay's a great town, but like, have you seen the stadium?
Yeah, it's a college town, and I think it's really cool. The first time you get there, you've been there a bunch, but you described it to me. And I was
Huge
like-
game for
I
Jordan
was like,
Love.
damn,
though.
these people living in this neighborhood for one day a year, or 8 games a year, maybe 11 on some of these big years they've had. They have the best seat in the house, dude. There was a guy, one of these night games a couple years ago, they showed his house. Like, they didn't even go to the game. They just had this huge party. You could see the stadium.
Just getting
lit
Wisconsin
up.
Shit house.
Just getting Wisconsin drunk, which is a whole nother level of drunk. But this is a huge spot for Jordan Love, Kyle. I don't know if he's ready for it, but he's been blitzed a lot over the last month of the season, and
He's gonna get blitzed again.
And he hasn't been blitzed by a coordinator like Spags, okay? And he's gonna get blitzed. He's gonna get pressured. He's been 11th in deep shots over the last month, 8th in intermediate passes. So the guy is starting to take more chances. We're not seeing what we saw earlier in the year. The thing is, he can be a tick behind. I think he's a young player. I think some of the things that they pulled the reins back a little bit where they were worried about his processing. I think he's really sharp, but he doesn't have a ton of tape, And so being a little bit slow against this defense will put you in a world of hurt. Do not be a little bit slow, especially because the windows are going to be tighter. And Green Bay receivers will be pressed, okay? So, like, if Reed plays.
They got physical secondary there.
Physical secondary. They're going to put hands on you. You need your man beaters to have big days. And I think Reed's that guy. So if he plays, he's got to have a big day. Another guy that's been in the top 5 in the league, I just found that out, against single-man coverage in 2023 is my guy, Dontavian Wicks, Virginia's own.
Wah.
He's made some fucking
Should have played last week.
Yeah, and so... Yeah, that would have helped us. Might have been 48 to 21.
21, yeah.
So Wicks, Reed, these guys, like the big guys are going to get theirs, right? But you need these little guys to be able to get off these jams. You're going to condense some formations. Like you have to have ways. Look at the Raiders tape last week. They knew when they were in man early in the game, and they had answers, okay? Now, as the game went on, the cream rose to the top. But I think there are going to be some opportunities for them if they can scheme this thing up the right way. I think it's going to be raining. I think it's going to be
snowing, maybe.
Snowing, possibly. The low is 29. And so the elements, like usually I'd say.
Doesn't matter with Kansas City.
Well, that's what I'd say is usually it doesn't matter with Kansas City. I usually go with the better quarterback and the better coach in situations like this. And I am anyways because I like the matchup for them. But the thing I worry about is this team's had a lot of drops. Okay, so these receivers, if it's going to be snowing out there, you got to catch the fucking ball. Last week you had one drop. I also think
means the Packers are going to drop it just like
the Packers are going to drop it, right? So you would just maybe it'll even out.
I just canceled you, like I just reverse card your ass.
Exactly. Bro. And I think Rashee Rice is a perfect example of Patrick Mahomes. The reason I'm not panicking about the Chiefs, and I've stayed here on this thing, is because as the season goes on, it's not like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are a new head coach quarterback pairing. It's not like they haven't been here before. They have made adjustments as the season goes on. Bill Belichick used to say the season starts after Thanksgiving. That's not to say you don't win games before that, but I think sometimes you figure out who your guys are. And last week, for the first time all year, you had 4 receivers that played over 50% of the game. So they're starting to figure out who their guys are. And I thought an interesting quote from Mahomes this week was, in effect, Rashee Rice makes a mistake. He's not going to make it again. I trust him. Like, that's what I got from hearing him talk about Rashee Rice. So that's an indicator that he trusts this guy. He's starting to figure out who he trusts. And I also think against the Packers, in their cover 3 setup, Travis Kelce's going to have a big day. You're going to see the type of day that Travis Kelce, you're like, where's he been?
Yeah.
And he had a good week last week, but this is maybe a breakout game for him. And so
I just think Patrick has such an appreciation for the history of the game and the greats that have come before. And
he wants to light up Lambeau.
And he goes to a place like Lambeau and he looks at it like an absolute playground. You know what I mean? Like it's a hallowed playground for him. 2
things that Kansas City Chiefs have been really good at this year, even though they don't have that explosive element. And I think that explosive element can be there, right? The MVS play could have possibly won them the game. I know the Eagles had a minute 40 left or something. But they're second in yards after the catch behind Washington, and they're before Miami. Miami's 3. So they are a Yactory, and then on top of that, their screens are really good. So you just got to get Rashawn Gary and these guys blocked and go to work.
That screen game. Yeah, I mean, now that you mention it, that's when people talk about the Chiefs, people want to talk about explosive offense and Patrick Mahomes, but it's the screen game, and it's installed by none other than Coach Andy Reid, Big Red. He gets up once during that offensive meeting to install.
Is that what he does?
And it's for screen.
It's for screen?
He's like, that's his baby.
He taught the enemy well because he took it to
run game, Andy Heck.
Yeah.
installs everything, as you would imagine, like run game coordinators. Well, you've never been in an offensive meeting.
Never, not once.
So the run game coordinator tends to be the offensive line coach, and that's what they do. But for the screen game, man, and it's going to be big against Green Bay because it always is. And when you don't have options on third down, true, legitimate, go-get-it options on third down, you can screen them up, particularly if you trust in your guys. And they do. I mean, Creed Humphrey, Tooney, Trey Smith, those guys are some of the best in the business at it.
Getting out in space and knocking people down. So.
Keep it seriously. Now that you mention it,
Yeah.
watch the explosive Pacheco on a screen.
No question. I feel like this could be a big Pacheco night, along with Kelsey. Denver, Houston. Okay, this is an exciting one, Kyle.
It's sexy, this one.
This is I'm excited about this game, Kyle, because it's a huge playoff implication game. Okay, it's a tie-break game in general because these guys are two teams in the AFC. They're going to be going head-to-head. We went through some of the tie breaks in the show with Stanford Steve. I think that's really interesting. Denver, if they lose this game, their chances of making the playoffs go down 13%. And if Houston wins this game, they're 68% to go to the playoffs. And conversely, if Denver wins, you get to 48%, and Houston's down to 34%. So this is a monumental game, dude. When I talk about the playoffs starting right now, they're already here, dude. You know, this is like the playing game is like a month and a half long in the NFL, and you can't fucking beat it. And so this is – talk about, Kyle, some interesting playoff matchups that are possible.
Yes.
Okay, here's one. Dream this up.
Okay.
Denver makes the playoffs. They go down to Miami to play those guys again.
Rematch.
They hung 70 on.
Yep.
You could see that matchup again.
Oh.
Okay, totally different defense.
Wild.
Hopefully this time around. Another one, Kyle.
It's like the plot of Little Giants.
Dude, now here's the
They will be running the annexation of Puerto Rico.
So Kyle, this one's really got me
Okay.
excited, and this is not even having anything to do with this game. Close your eyes again. It's wild card weekend. We've got the Detroit Lions hosting the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Stafford's coming back to town. Lions fans don't know what the fuck to think.
They're emotional.
He's got his Super Bowl, so you got to root hard against the guy. It's
Torn.
your team. He's not friends with you today. But on the other side of things, Jared Goff, who was scorned in L.A., McVay doesn't like him. He doesn't like McVay.
But he sucks again.
It's a whole And McVay wants to
I'm
prove.
kidding.
No, but I mean,
He doesn't suck.
This month he has,
He doesn't suck, though.
but he doesn't suck. Jared Goff's a good
Because we
quarterback.
started the show off with saying we had some games where we sucked. But
We sucked.
But we don't suck.
We don't suck. We sucked at
So
times.
welcome, Jared.
You're not an asshole. You're being an asshole.
Yes.
You know that whole thing.
I didn't call you a bitch.
Yeah, I said,
Yeah.
bitch. Key and Peele. But those two games, including the possibility of Denver going to Miami to play, and then the thought of L.A. and Detroit, it's tantalizing.
Yeah, the L.A. Detroit thing is sexy, and so is the
So
Denver
hot.
Miami. But I wish it would be. Can you imagine if Denver found a way to run the table after the Miami game and they were hosting Miami?
Yeah, it'd be crazy. It'd be crazy. I don't think it's going to happen.
In the movie, that would
In
be
the movie, that'd be sick.
they would be in Denver.
You got to come up to
Yeah,
Denver,
can't breathe.
we can't
Yep,
breathe.
can't breathe at all.
Okay.
Straight uphill.
I'll just say this. Denver's offense. Russ has been better, man. He's been good. I think you can run the ball on these guys. You can they're an aggressive front. So the way we talk about running gap scheme on these penetrating defensive lines, see Indy, see Baltimore against Cleveland, that kind of blueprint. I mean, Indy's an inside zone team, and they mix the looks up. And they gash these guys. So I think they can get something done in the run game. I also think if you're looking at props, I'm building out my John Gannon parlay right now. There's one that I love, and it's P. Ryan over receptions, over receiving yards. He's been really good lately for them, and on plays where running backs are the targeted position, Houston ranks 23rd in successful play percentage allowed. So I got a lot of respect for P. Ryan. I think he was a big loss for Cincinnati. Right? And a big addition for Denver. In a game like this, you should use him. Now, this is from a Denver Post article. All these statistics really eye-opening for me. When you look at the Broncos and their offense, they don't score at a high click, right? But they could, dude. They could. They got to get the ball in the end zone when they get down in the red zone. They have been abhorrent there over the last 4 games.
We're terrible down in the red zone all season. 9 of 18 over the last 4 games. We were 1 of 5 against the Vikings.
So they're just pass happy down there, and that's including 8 straight runs in the Kansas City game down there. So it jumps to like 60 if you actually adjust it for that. And inside the 10, they're throwing the ball at a 62% rate. So it just doesn't make sense. They got 1 rushing touchdown in the past 10 games. I guess Sean Payton looks at Russ, who's really good down there, 70%, 16 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and he says, I trust him with the ball in his hands. But at what cost? Because 10 of 16 of these failed red zone trips, they had a sack or a penalty. So him dropping back to pass, as good and efficient as he's been, it's either these pre-snap penalties.
We can't handle
or
the
these
success.
sacks. Yeah, right?
We don't have the infrastructure for this.
And Sean was always good in the red zone in New Orleans, one of the best. So I think he knows what to do.
Yeah, but they had great guards.
Yeah, they had great guards. They could run the ball.
They have good guards in Denver.
Yeah, I like Miners a lot.
But not like soon to be a potential Hall of Famer, Jari Evans. Shout out to Jari Evans.
Those guys were beasts.
I remember when I got in the league, that was the film my O-line coach gave me to watch. It was Carl and Ja.
And Mickey Loomis always drafted those big guys really well. So.
In this matchup, Chris, I'm really excited to see this Denver defense step up against one of the best rookies I've seen in C.J. Stroud. C.J. is Steph-minded, where he's like, I'm just going to keep shooting. He has turnovers sometimes, but then he has those throws that leave our jaw dropped on the floor. Is Denver going to step up and make a big play in a big moment? Is this the game where C.J. bites off more than he can chew? Is this the game where...
He got that out of his system against, the Cardinals, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
right?
but...
Maybe it's still in his system.
This Denver game is as big as I can remember for the Denver Broncos.
It's huge.
And Sean Payton will have these fucking guys ready to fight.
Yeah.
And, Houston is a young, confident team with weapons all over, with Brown and Tank Dell. The laptop will probably be watching the game. But it's all about, I think, this Denver defense. And, yeah, the difference this year with Russell is he's not as big.
No, he looks better.
He's not as jacked. That's what I'm going to
say.
Yeah,
he was just a little too muscle-bound like the powder keg last year. Now
and sometimes when you're jacked, you don't move well.
No, it's true.
Sometimes you see those big bodybuilders, you say, I bet you can't touch your toes.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes Russell couldn't get out of the situations that he's been known to get out of, where he can turn his back to the rush and get out of stuff. He just couldn't do it last year.
Yeah.
This year, up the gut, A, B, C gap, he's been able to extend plays, and even the threat of his legs now are attracting the rush.
A lot of these big conversions he's had, it's like him climbing the pocket.
It's either checkdowns or climb
and just lobbing the ball to Sutton or something for 10 yards. And
Sutton's great.
They're a phone booth kind of team, right? But it's ironic because when they get down there in the red zone, it's a phone booth, but they're not doing well there. But on defense, you said it, C.J. Stroud, he's just going to fire, and he should have a good day. Okay, but the Denver rush defense has to keep him in the pocket. The guys on the back end have to be good in scramble drill situations, Kyle, because when you watch a lot of his best plays this year, it's not like he's running for his life on purpose. He's buying himself time. And as the play breaks down, one guy that I think he's gotten a lot of mileage out of is Noah Brown. And over the last couple of weeks, he hasn't been out on the field. So, what do they look like with him back? Is he going to be able to cash in on a couple more of these extended plays?
He had a $170 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he's been a revelation.
And the catch to win the game for him, to close the game out. So he is a guy that he's going to rely on heavily. But it's going to be tough titties for the
tough titties indeed. I'm worried about Titus Howard, who is expected to miss the rest of the season. And I like Juice Scruggs. He's going to step up at guard. Tank Dell had some imaging on his calf after the game. He just started practicing this week. That's a big thing for them. The injuries worry me. Red zone, okay, defensively on the other side for the Denver Broncos, it's crazy. When you look back at that Miami game, Miami had 15 red zone plays. They scored 7 touchdowns. Now, if you take that out of it, and you exclude week 3, the Broncos are 6th in touchdown drives allowed. So this game is going to be won and lost in the red zone. I really do believe that. And I think it starts with Denver's offense. All right, let's get the Lions Saints. This is funny, Kyle. Will Lutz, former kicker for the Saints, doesn't know that likes are public.
I love when people have that issue.
Yeah, he liked the tweet that said, "Fire Dennis Allen. Don't make the fans go through another year of this BS." Mickey Loomis.
I mean,
And then he liked another one that was like, "Dennis Allen's the worst coach ever."
he's not wrong.
So, and this leads me to the next point, which is the Saints don't have an identity. And I just don't know what you lean on in a game like this. The only thing I can think of is
Yeah, but do the Lions have an identity? We thought that they're the
it's their run
imposters,
game.
dude.
It's their run game.
But they were the imposters the last time that I looked in on them.
Well, but one thing they did last week is they did run the ball, but the game script got away from them. Where like all of a sudden you find yourself down. Kyle, we talked
And I'm
about
not saying I'm here to pick the Saints. I'm saying that
No.
you're saying they don't have an identity in New Orleans. And I'm saying there's an identity crisis.
identity
going on in
crisis. We've got
Detroit.
an identity crisis in Detroit.
I love saying this.
So, anyways, Kyle, you talked about a lot of decisions on fourth down, which is part of their identity, and you complained that they went at the wrong times, and the way they did it, I think is the way you put it, like when they did it. My biggest gripe is, in the first half, you're down 20-6, you're at the 48, it's 4th and 2, and you punt. Okay, and then late in the game, it's like, you're running fake punts in the third quarter, backed up on 4th and 4.
Chewing on your microphone.
You're passing up a bunch of field goals late in the game where you were actually getting some stops. I think you left at least 3 field goals on the field and you lose by 7 points.
The stops kept happening.
The
FOMO kept happening.
Where you're
Because
just like,
can you imagine if we had
if we had just taken the points. Now, I love his aggressiveness, but there is a range within that where I'm like,
there is a spectrum.
when you outthink the computer, when you're more horny to go than the computer,
It's the horny spectrum. That's
it's
what
time
it
to
is.
chill out a little bit. So I think like this script will be different. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think the big question, and I think it's an over game, don't find yourself in a shootout with these guys. Jack Campbell is one to watch. He's going to be wearing the green dot per Aaron Glenn. Probably better in the run game. I don't know if you'd agree with me, but better.
I like Jack Campbell.
Better in the run game than in coverage. But he's got his hands full with Kamara and all the balls they dump down to him. With Anzalone, I think, out for a while. That's going to be a big thing for them, for a defense that's gotten to, like, they can hang their hat on Anzalone being a good cover guy, and he's played well all year. He's out, so there's a lot of pressure on this kid. And the Saints haven't protected Carr too well, but you know what the Lions haven't done is they haven't gotten home. So it's like the immovable object, unstoppable force, but the other way. It's like, who's actually going to be able to do the thing? And if I had to guess,
other way.
I actually think the Saints are going to be able to drop back, get the ball out, and move the ball. So the key for me is, can Derek Carr avoid these turnovers? And I think if the Saints struggle this weekend, it is time to make a change at quarterback. And that's not saying I don't like Derek Carr or I'm second guessing them going for it this year.
You just like mixing up the punch.
Well, Atlanta, the other team in the division that you're both trying to claw your way out of 4 wins to win a division, 5 wins or whatever they have. Atlanta made a change a couple weeks ago. Now, it didn't work out, but at least they made a change. If you make a change after this, you actually have – it's not one of these things where the other team's going to win 5 games and run away from you. It's like turtle races. There was this place in Venice Beach that they used to do turtle races.
I think we both were there.
I think so. And they just let the turtles go.
Yep.
And that's the NFC South. And, so, like, if you got to change turtles – in the time you got a pit stop, the other turtle's only going to be like a couple inches ahead. You can
still see him. Yep.
So if there's if there's a change that has to be made, it has to happen after this week. You cannot wait any longer. You went for it this year. You have no allegiance to Derek Carr. This is a rental. You know what I mean?
Tough place to play in New Orleans, regardless of what roster you're playing against. I mean, those fans always do a great job. Bringing the juice, but this Detroit Lions team, as you said, the run game is serious. It does travel and it does impose the will on a defense, and you got to make that business decision time and time again as a D lineman. I would imagine it's a tough one to make against the Lions.
It's tough
if you get down and you're playing chase the whole time.
Their run game is not only violent, but it's fast.
And multiple.
And that's why, and you got different backs.
You may catch a mouthful of Penei Sewell from the other side.
Yes. And you're just like, where did he come from?
Fuck did you come from, bro?
I didn't order a Penei.
No, I didn't order a minivan.
I didn't order a PT Cruiser to the side of my head.
No, PT Cruiser. Come on.
So, I mean, that's like.
Toyota Hilux.
Yeah, Hilux. But Jonah Jackson's going to be back, so that's big. Like, and I want to see that last week was an outlier, right? So Jonah Jackson's the guy I'm watching to see if that offensive line's better in protection. They should be because the Saints aren't great up front, rushing the passer. And if Goff has time, he can clean up the mistakes because before a month ago, he was one of the best in the league at turnover-worthy plays. But if you can't protect him, these turnovers will not go away.
Dan Campbell's
so-
secret weapon, Chris. He's got one this week.
What is it?
Malcolm Rodriguez.
Malk. Love Malk.
Played some linebacker, some fullback this
Yo,
week.
he caught a ball.
This week, both. He's going to be a two-way guy.
Get him some more targets.
Because usually he's like one side of the ball or the other.
Yeah.
They got him out there. He's going to be like a two-way player.
Last thought on this game. Jerry Jacobs is a guy with a bullseye on him. He was targeted 9 times last week, 8 receptions, 101, and 5 first
Fish.
downs. Okay, so the way we used to talk about when you guys had a fish, that's what they're saying. So those are the top-tier games. Now let's get into the mid-tiers, the Willis Reeds. This podcast is brought to you by Cash App, the all-in-one app for spending, sending, and setting easy-to-track savings goals. With multiple tools for saving, spending, and sending, Cash App is an all-in-one way to stay in control of your money. Whether I need to send money to my pumpkin grower, pay for anything related to floating the river, quickly pay back a buddy for a night out on the town, or settle a bet, I can always count on Cash App. With security, boosts, discounts, a free-to-order debit card, no overdraft fees, Cash App is like a BFF for your money. It can be your Reed. Reed's my BFF in the studio. Cash App, the exclusive financial services partner of Greenlight. Download it in the App Store or Google Play to see why it's the #1 finance app in the U.S. App Store. Game day is the perfect pizza day. So make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL, part of your game day. Order online during our Pizza pregame 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day Sunday. To have your NFL game day covered, choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. It's a pizza win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends, order your Little Caesars, and enjoy during the games. Commies Dolphins, Kyle. Commies Dolphins. The Commies have struggled to generate pressure, Kyle. It's a good spot for the Finns. I don't know why I gave it out the other day, but there's no takebacks. It's not like Frank Reich with the play calling duties. Once I give a lockout, I can't control what happens afterwards. But I can caution you to maybe not bet this one out of all the locks I gave out. It could be 7-on-7. Okay, so the Commanders, middle-of-the-road rushing defense, schematic mismatch here. They should be able to get on the perimeter. You've got a Forbes injury. You run cover 3, you run quarters. 71% touchdown percentage allowed over the last 3 games in the red zone. Like, this is a bad matchup in a lot of ways for the Commanders defense. Now, for me, it's like, do you sit on your hands or do you get more aggressive? Because sitting on your hands is not going to do it. I know that's not been a thing they do, is like blitz at a high click and they dump their best pass rushers. But I would play balls out. I would just fucking run fakes. I would bring free runners. I would do the riverboat Ron thing this week. Like, Ron's going down with the ship.
You can't do it with your game plan on offense, though. You have to do it in all the other ways. Do not fuck with the baby.
Special teams, maybe run a fake.
Special teams, give them some crazy looks on defense, maybe try to create an extra possession. But for the Sam Howell, Eric Bieniemy marriage so far, it's been good. It looks good at times, but then there's times where you're like, fuck, don't do that. I would say it's like salt, a little bit of it. That's nice, but you put the whole thing in there and it's like, I can't even eat this.
Yeah.
So don't do that against anybody, but particularly the Dolphins, who, if you fall behind and you try to put a ton of salt in there, the whole thing tastes like shit.
I don't know if you're salting your meats or what here, Kyle, but I think if they can score with them, and I think there's reason to be optimistic offensively. Like, the Dolphins just lost Jalen Phillips, who's one of my favorite players, man. And
brutal to watch that.
That's brutal. That affects their chances of winning a Super Bowl. Like, no doubt about it. They went and got JPP off a practice squad.
They still got
JPP off a practice squad. I mean, like, if he was that good, he'd be playing right now. So I don't know if they're going to be able to replace him. Here's your hope. And I said this last week with the Jets. If you can force turnovers, the Dolphins have 4 of them over the last 2 games. Tua's got 10 picks on the year. They are turnover prone. Like, Jets got 2 before the half, could do something with one of them, but gave it right back on the pick 6 on a Hail Mary. The Raiders, didn't really hurt them the way that maybe the Commanders can if you force some turnovers. So that's it. And speaking of turnovers, Kyle, to wrap this breakdown up, McDaniel taking the ball off of somebody at the nightclub.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think that he said that the reports of that were a bit exaggerated, but it did go down like that.
He said it made him look like a D-bag.
Yeah.
Well, people were saying it made him look like Michael Scott or something, like where he's
I wouldn't
using
want
his
Al
power.
Michaels doing that to me.
Yeah, Al Michaels kind of. I mean, it was a fun story. It was Mike McDaniel's got Riz. It was the point. He
should have just
for
said
people
that.
that didn't hear it. Mike McDaniel's coaching in like Saskatchewan or something. I don't know. I might be fucking this whole thing. Where was he?
I think he was in Denver.
Denver. Same thing. He's coaching like a minor league football team in Denver, and one of his players or one of the assistant coaches is like cutting it up with this hot babe, and McDaniel's being the rizzy guy he
He
is.
called him in jet motion.
He's like,
and got
"Hey,
him the fuck out of there."
Get out of here.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're married.
Married.
So
To close out on this game, I did type in Dolphins commies just quickly on Google, and the first thing that came up, it says, "The bizarre but true story of military dolphin."
no way, Kyle. Stay here.
Yeah, apparently over the course of the Cold War, the Navy captured live dolphins to train, blah, 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 blah.
The Soviets tried to train dolphins as spies, I believe.
Iranians.
We talked about this.
I think
when
we did
were-
after
when we were
that
talking
that
about-
Russian
Yes.
movie that we watched.
Yeah.
The Navy first discovered dolphins' bomb-seeking utility in the 60s. I think the Iranians had them in the 2000s, though. I don't even know where they would put dolphins in Iran.
In Iran?
With the WMDs.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Rams-Browns, Kyle. I am excited about this game because I am going to bet this game. I'm going to bet the Rams here. Rams fans ask me a lot. Well, a little bit, but there's always one in my comments. You never root for the Rams like this. I'm like, because be better, I'll bet you more. And, that's where I get the juices flowing. So this weekend, you could see some Rams reactions from me because I like the matchup. Okay, Miles is out, right? No structural damage. He might be out for a little bit. Myles Garrett, as good as this defense has been at times, they're like 16th in pressure rate. In total pressures generated. So we might find out that he's the MVP after all. McVay loves outside zone, but again, let's go more gap scheme. Let's take advantage of their aggression. Kyron Williams was back last week, looked awesome. On the other side of things, in the pass game, Kyle, the Browns, they play a ton of cover one. We know that. Stafford, if you look at the numbers, like 40th in the league on the season against cover one.
40th.
But I also think, they're like including
I
like
fucking
Sleepy
love
Tim
that,
Boyle
dude.
and shit. Well, the thing about it is, we looked at the cut up. It's not really that he can't beat man. It's just that he's been pressured a lot. Like he was under a lot of pressure. So if they can block these guys up, I feel really good about him going toe to toe with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, that's the big story for me. It's like, look, DTR, he's a little bit banged up. I still don't know what his situation is with
In concussion
practice.
protocol.
He's concussion protocol. So it's like,
Dude, we're going to see Joe Flacco.
this
play
is what the
football
people
this
have been
weekend.
waiting to see.
I cannot wait.
This is what Ronnie from Baltimore has been wanted for
Because
so
I've
long.
been on this side of it.
An
where-
elite pocket passer.
Yeah. Where you think it's over and you're like, I'm a guy now. And like, I'm sure Joe, although I told you what he said at Inside the NFL.
I think I want to play again.
Yeah, and I was surprised by that. But like, when you move on from football, it's the craziest thing. And you'll have dreams about walking back through that door. and being like- It's just hard to imagine going back. But for a quarterback that's been sitting on the street, to go back in there and he's going to play a real game. It's
gonna be a fun-
It's
it's
like a dream, dude.
And it's going to be just two 40-year-old guys slinging
Yeah.
pigskin
Yep.
against one another
Yep.
on teams that we don't recognize them on.
Or care about.
or
Quite
care
frankly,
about.
I
Or
don't
care
think either
about.
of these teams are making noise. A week ago, I said, hey, Cleveland might be okay. But then I saw them play last week.
I put the Browns-Lions Super Bowl future in, though, 2 weeks ago.
Hey, next time, let's just light money on fire because that'd be better on YouTube.
I follow you on Twitter.
Okay. Falcons and Jets. I'm excited about this game. I also have people telling me in the YouTube comments, and I'm addressing you directly. Yeah, bro, nobody cares what you're betting. Dude, however little you care about that is however little I care about your opinion. I am betting the Atlanta Falcons this week. Okay. I just don't see the way the Jets win this game.
Yeah.
And if you don't like making money, then by all means, I'm going to make money. Join me. I like the Falcons here because the Jets are actually 25th against the run since week 9. They have been bleeding a lot of yardage on the ground, and the Falcons have protected well.
If you can't pass, you got to run. And the Jets can't pass, and they can't run consistently. And the Falcons, when asked to,
They can at least run the
ball
football.
to the right person, can at least run the football.
They can run the football.
So it's easy bread for me.
Now, the problem is Desmond Ridder, he's going to throw you some. So if he can avoid doing that in the wrong spots of the field, like, hey, if you got to make STB, Sleepy Tim Boyle, drive the ball 50 yards to score, it's probably not going to happen. You want to throw a pick at the 35, cool, but don't do that shit backed up, Desmond. And on the other side of things for them, they can create turnovers. Jesse Bates has been huge. We talked about the break he made on that ball last week. He terrorized Bryce earlier this season, Bryce Young, and they got A.J. Terrell outside. Like, I really like this matchup for the Falcons. Having said that, they probably lose 13-10 now, but I do think the game, and the total is 34, I kind of look at it like a 17-10 thing. And so, I mean, like, whether you want the under or whether you want the Falcons, I think there's something to be had here. And then with the Jets, Kyle, if you lose this game, you at least know you're going to get Rodgers back in 2 weeks. And so, like, once you get Aaron back, you never know. Like, you can make up a lot of ground in the AFC. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Yeah, I'm on my Game Time app right now. I'm looking at Virginia Tech tickets. You know, maybe we'll win one of those at some point. We did it with Bryce Perkins. Anyways, I keep scrolling on the app. I'm going to get tickets to the Commonwealth Cup. Game Time makes it easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, even last-minute deals. I know because I always wait till the last minute. You can preview the views from all your seats in the venue and Game Time's lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, protects my tickets. That's what I need. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code GREENLIGHT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code GREENLIGHT, GREENLIGHT. That's the code for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Steelers Cardinals. Here's all I'm excited to see. Another week with Sullivan improving this offense, with Kenny feeling a little bit more confident. I want to see your top-end speed. You're going to be able to run the ball, but I think rarely in the NFL do you get to run your shit late in the season in a game where you have control of it. So if you can control this game early, I wouldn't take my foot off the gas pedal. I'd take these preseason games with this new offensive play caller, and I would play like I'm trying to win the BCS.
Yes.
Like, you know, like I would be out there slinging the ball up 10.
I'm trying to make Kenny Pickett the Heisman.
Yeah, like as if Kenny's trying to beat Jaden Daniels.
Or Bo Nix is going to win it.
So the point is, yeah, I kind of like that, Kyle. The point is just run as much of your shit that you intend to run as you can. And don't treat this like, hey, if you're trying to win the game, get control of this game. But once you get up,
get greased up. Get greased up.
And Kyle, this is interesting. Defensive Player of the Year. If you look at the odds right now, and I don't know why it hasn't budged that much, but Myles Garrett plus 160, Micah plus 160, and then TJ Watt is plus 250. The point I'm trying to make is that TJ Watt should be the Defensive Player of the Year. Mm-hmm. He's leading the league in sacks, Kyle. Look at the next 4 games. Plus 250, you can get TJ Watt. Next 4 games, Cardinals, Pats, Colts, Bengals. I see sacks on the horizon.
Can we place the bet?
Yeah.
Can we go 50-50?
Yeah, what do you want? Yeah, let's
place it. Let's do something.
Let's do it. You know, you have an app too.
Streak. I don't.
Oh, okay.
On purpose.
Okay, that's good. What, you destroyed it?
I just don't do it. I just don't have it. One last thing on this matchup is the injuries for Arizona. They've got some key players on their offense that are going to be coming back. Hollywood Brown, I believe, is a guy that needs to be the focal point of that offense. And if he's not out there 100%,
Yeah.
I have concern for this offense.
I'm beyond concerned about Arizona this year.
Were you surprised that Ertz got his release?
I think it's really cool of them. I think Zach Ertz, like, leaving Philly, like, you go to Arizona, J.J. Watt was there. There was all this stuff that was like, we're going to win. And it just turned into this, like, he's feeling like a St. Louis Ram or a Chicago Bear in some of the leanest years. And that's
I don't know if I ever felt like that.
Yeah, it's bad. and it's a tough adjustment for a guy like him. And, you think, I'm leaving Philly, I want more touches. Goddard's there, he's emerging. But maybe at this stage in his career, he just wants to come home.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping, because I would love Sunday if at the link Ertz catches a fourth quarter touchdown pass, like to think about the ovation that he would get. The surreal nature of switching a team midweek and ending up in your old place and being like, fuck, man, I'm going to make this stop count because I missed this.
J.J. Watt tweeting it out reminded me of Macon breaking Kyle's announcement.
Yeah, that was really cool. Cool of you, Kyle.
It was a cool year. Huh?
Okay, so Titans-Colts.
Not a waste at all.
All I'm going to say about the Titans-Colts game, Jonathan Taylor's down. Keep leaning on the RPOs. This is a game that the Colts need to win to stay in it. Like they still want to make the playoffs. And I hats off to this coach. The reason I'm worried about them, though, this week is this is a division rivalry, and the line is 1 point last time I checked. And so, like, I'm not touching this thing with a 10-foot pole.
This is going to be a Mike Vrabel game, dude.
It's a Vrabel game.
It's going to be a Vrabel game.
It's like Vrabel's going to figure out a way to beat these guys.
Yep. This is like the old Patriot way type win that you're going to see.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Carolina and Tampa
Which
Bay.
may be the new Patriot way.
Speaking of the new Patriot way, Carolina, this is a Cam Newton bomb.
Did you just say per?
Yeah,
Sir
per. And so earlier somebody was like, there was a report that Bill's going to Carolina next. Then we looked it up, and it was just basically Cam Newton being like, yeah, I think Bill should go to Carolina. And listen, the thought's cool, but, like, who wants to work for David Tepper? You got to find a guy who's –
I want to work for David Tepper.
You want to be his get-back guy.
Because he's going to fire me.
Yeah,
and I'll be guaranteed
money.
millions of dollars.
Yeah, no question. But I'm just saying,
And
like,
then I'll go watch NASCAR and eat Hooters wings.
listen, Kyle, we talked about your special teams buddy, the guy that bought your house.
Chris Tabor.
Who's going to be coaching this game. As a bettor, usually you'd say, hey, you get that interim coach bump. And I'm like, I don't know if this feels like the type of game where people rally around. It feels like more of a situation where everybody's like, this is fucked up, huh?
What's happening?
What's happening around here? So they could play this game in a hangar for all I
Does
care.
my key work?
I'm not, like, I can't imagine a reason to watch this game unless you're a Carolina fan and you want to see who your next head coach is. I don't think it's Tabor, as you noted, but it is interesting that Ivero didn't get the interim job. Maybe that tells you they want to keep him around. They don't want him to walk out there and get shell-shocked as a head coach, interim head coach. Thomas Brown, who's gone from passing coordinator to QB coach. He was also the play caller. Then he
What
wasn't.
about Bobby Slowick?
Bobby Slowick.
Yeah, down there in Houston.
Yeah, no question.
Offensive coordinator. He's
Yeah.
with C.J. Stroud. He's a Shanahan type.
No, I know, but what do you mean? Yo, is the head coach?
We're talking.
Oh, you like it, head coach.
I'm just throwing out names.
That's good. How about Ben
I like
Johnson?
the name game.
How about Ben Johnson?
Ben Johnson, which loosely translates to always been a penis.
Or, yeah, okay, you got it.
Ben Johnson.
Okay. Thomas Brown. I watched some of his. I watched some of Thomas Brown's, like, kind of presser, and I had this in mind. Like, what's the temperature in this building? Because if you watch the presser, you read the quotes is one thing. You watch the presser, it looks different. You can hear the words, you can see the tone, and every question they asked where they gave Thomas Brown an opportunity to talk glowingly about Frank Reich and what he passed on to him and the relationship they had. He kind of skirted it. And on top of that, it was like, and I think Frank's a great guy, but he wasn't getting the job done, and maybe to the point where it was a professional strain on the entire building. And you could tell because they asked Bradley Bozeman, what do you think about the fire and the whole thing? We didn't perform well enough, and credit to David Tepper for doing what was right for the team. So, like, when you say
You don't just say that.
You don't just say that. And then Thomas Brown's up there, and the words I'm hearing are guys were wound up a little too tight. They're afraid to make mistakes. He skirted the questions about the relationship. And then when he asked about Frank's impact on him, he said, that's a loaded question. Oh. So, like, there's a lot in that in that press conference and listening to Bradley Bozeman and just what you have.
The Bozeman thing is very telling.
And what you haven't heard about Frank in a positive light from the players. And I love Frank Reich. I think he's a great man. It wasn't working here. Whether or not he wanted that quarterback, I'm not going to know for sure. I don't think anybody's going to know for sure.
David Tepper told us yesterday.
Well,
Or Tuesday.
David Tepper. But the point is, maybe they come out hot, contradictory to the way I kind of read the situation. And I'm not touching this game, just like Titans and the Colts.
Do you think Stella got her groove back?
Maybe Stella got her groove back. And Baker, by the way, when he played Desai, and it's the same tree of defensive coordinators and schematics, he scored 11 points at home against Philly. We'll see. Okay? Pats, Chargers. Now, this is a game I'm interested in because I teased all the Cowboys stuff with the Chargers, which is a total idiotic.
Bill gets to look at his new quarterback.
It's just stupid. He gets Zappy's. But the point,
No. He gets to look at his new quarterback.
Justin Herbert. And that's where I'm going, Kyle.
I like that.
Let me paint you a picture.
Bill's going to be going like this the whole time. Just like.
Well, let me paint you a picture, Kyle. He's going to be shirtless outside somebody's house in Manhattan Beach in months. Just wait. Staley.
He's a Hermosa guy.
Yeah, he probably is. They lose this game. Which beach town do you think Bill would live in? You think it's Hermosa?
If I were to give him a beach town, I'd say, I would say Hermosa.
Okay.
If we're going proximity to where they're at.
Not Huntington. There's too many.
No, really, I'd say San Clemente, which is like the furthest south you can go in Orange County. It's like,
I can see Bill on the beach, but the point is, if the Chargers lose this game, Kyle, and they don't fire Brandon Staley, you need to relegate them. You really do.
Them.
The whole organization.
Wow.
They're not serious, dude.
You got to put those dark navy, all color rush navies away because I like those.
Here's the ending to the game, Kyle, that I like. They lose the game. They fire Brandon Staley. He gets on a plane, a regional jet, to Harrisonburg, Virginia, to coach JMU, where he used to coach because Cignetti just left for Indiana.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then, kind of like a 3-team trade, Bill just gets on the plane with the Chargers.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Would that be cool or
Gets
what?
a head start. I just, guys, you just keep on doing what you're doing.
So, and everybody's like, Bill's in the locker room. He's here to, congratulate us on, playing hard.
Imagine you're sitting in the back row and Bill walks back instead of Brandon Staley, and you're like, guys, we're on to something.
Yeah, we're on to something. Get on the plane with us.
What if Bill goes to JMU and he's just at the podium and he's
Green light correspondent. He could be our
we're
Aaron
on to
Rodgers.
next week.
He could
We're
be
on
our
to
Aaron
Troy.
Rodgers.
Bill Belichick is such a big lacrosse fan, it would be sacrilegious for him not to go to the University of Virginia.
Can you imagine if Bill was our Aaron Rodgers and he was coaching at JMU and every week where you've had Rodgers talking about healing and Dolphins all year, we had Bill talking about JMU football. I mean, come on, that'd be crazy.
It would be good.
So anyways, the funniest thing about this game was Hot Mike last week, Jabril Peppers going up to Saquon Barkley after the game. You lucky we ass. Because they really are. They're ass. They lost to Tommy DeVito. Maybe Zappy's the spark, but the Pats have to lose
Lucky
this game.
we ass.
Yeah, the Pats have to lose this game. They have to lose this game. You cannot afford to beat this team and get knocked a peg down in the draft order. You just can't. But here's the last thing I'm going to say about this. Can you imagine being a free agent, choosing New England, like Zeke? And just, you're like, I'm going to New England. It's got to work out, right?
He looks sweet.
Uche. And this is a lesson for anybody that's judging players based on their numbers or where they are right now. Stop judging people so strictly on what they're doing right now in a system. Because last year, this guy was gangbusters. Him and Judon were terrorizing people. The point is, Uche's got 2 sacks this year, okay? Slater, it's his last year. Uche's a free agent. Can you imagine, this is your year? You're coming off that year. You're like, I want to make some money.
I'm getting out of here.
Bro, you're not – 2 sacks this year. That sucks. And it has nothing to do with him. Matt Slater, it's his last year. Matt said earlier, I thought this was really funny. He's like a Roman that lived long enough to see the fall of the empire.
That's unreal.
And the poor guy, he's got this Hall of Fame level career as a special teams guy, one of the best leaders of all time. And this is what he's got to finish with.
It's a good way to end, though, because when it leaves a bad taste in your mouth about playing, and then you're so excited about living.
Exactly. That makes sense. You're like, this sucks. I got to get out.
I got to go live.
It's hard to walk away from something good.
Yeah.
You know?